Yo, that's straight up garbage. 50 Cent just stepped in again, defending his big bro Ice Cube after Aries Spears made some dissing remarks about him. And you know things have really gone off the rails when someone like 50 Cent, who's already buried in a million projects, actually takes the time to respond. We're talking about the guy who made into Club. If he's pausing to clap back, then yeah, you definitely crossed a serious line. And it's not even for his own sake. He's doing it just to clap back at Aries Spears for disrespecting Ice Cube. I can't stand Ice Cube, but still, that's crazy. Aries Spears didn't just drop a casual comment. He went full-on reckless, which, it got to the point where 50 Cent gave Aries Spears a straight-up shut-up call on Big Boy's neighborhood. Aries didn't hold back. He flat-out said that Ice Cube sucked as both a rapper and an actor. He made it clear he wasn't a fan of Cube, either lyrically or as an actor. Naturally, Cube wasn't going to let that slide. He clapped back hard, calling Aries irrelevant, unfunny, and basically said he doesn't even register in the black comedy scene. Not top 10, not top anything. Then, because Chaos loves company, 50 Cent jumped in. And let's be real, 50 lives for moments like this. If someone's already catching heat, he's the type to throw more gas on the fire. The thing is, it all started out pretty chill. Just a regular rap conversation talking rankings, barbershop-style debates. But Aries? He flipped the switch the second Ice Cube's name came up. No pause, no filter, just went off. And that wasn't even the peak. That was just the warm-up. Aries didn't stop after that first jab. He went even further and took shots at Today Was a Good Day, a track that's practically a national treasure for West Coast hip-hop fans. It's one of those songs people. Today Was a Good Day is considered untouchable. A true classic. Even Big Boy's co-host tried to lighten the mood, maybe hoping to smooth things over with a laugh. But it ended with a line so awkward that everyone at the table just kind of froze. Aries chuckled, but no one else joined in. It was one of those moments where the joke falls completely flat, and the silence says everything. That's racist. I don't know how it's racist, but what you're doing. Locking in on Cube wasn't enough. Aries just kept piling it on. The vibe in the room shifted quickly. The co-host looked uncomfortable, and Big Boy tried to move things along, but Aries stayed locked in, completely refusing to read the room. And just when it seemed like it couldn't get any worse, Aries threw in a dig at Tupac. He said Pac wasn't the greatest lyricist, that he was energy, he was passion, he made you feel him. If Pac said tear the club up, you wanted to tear the club up. If he said dear mama, you wanted to hug your mama. But when it came to pure lyricism, Aries said it was Nas, Jay-Z, Biggie, Jadakiss, his words real spitters. At this point, it wasn't just Ice Cube he was going after. It felt like an attack on the entire West Coast legacy. And in a culture that holds respect and history so close, that's exactly how you get shut out and blackballed. What's even wilder? Aries knew exactly what he was doing. At one point, he looked straight into the camera and said, "Watch the comments." Thing is, whether you're from the East, West, or anywhere in between, if you ask people for their top 5 rappers, Tupac's almost always on that list. But Aries made it crystal clear. I don't ever put Pac up there with the top rappers. Unsurprisingly, the internet didn't waste any time. The backlash hit instantly, came fast, and it wasn't pretty. People weren't just upset. They were straight up calling Aries out for crossing the line. Fellow comedians like Corey Holcomb didn't hold back, saying Aries went too far by disrespecting someone like Ice Cube. Social media lit up, with fans calling his comments completely out of pocket. Even Ice Cube himself responded, "See?" Then 50 Cent jumped in too, mocking him. And let's be honest, that only made things worse. What started off as a random opinion quickly snowballed into a full-blown mess, with many saying Aries showed a serious lack of respect for the culture. What Aries didn't see coming was the response from the very legends he chose to target. Normally, in the industry, heavyweights usually Ice Cube doesn't even bother replying. He stays quiet, lets the noise pass, and just keeps it moving. But this time, Cube wasn't letting it slide. And when Ice Cube claps back, he does it in classic Cube fashion, cool, sharp, and cutting. He didn't just defend himself. He threw Aries' entire comedic career into question. In a podcast, Ice Cube didn't let Aries off the hook. He made it clear that he didn't even know who comedian Aries Spears was, and added that whoever he is, he's never made Ice Cube laugh. Now that sounds like pure tit for tat. Like what? Cube didn't hold back. He dismissed Aries not just as a critic, but as someone who doesn't even register in the comedy world. Ice Cube further said, "Suckers usually don't like me. You know what I'm saying? Like the people that, they usually don't like me when they coming from that angle." Then he added, "That's cool though. Everybody got their opinion, and they all stink, you know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day it's cool. He's entitled to his opinion. The feeling is mutual. I don't think he's on anybody's list of top 10 comedians, you know what I mean? In the black community for sure. I don't even know if he's on the register." Cube's response wasn't just off the cuff, it was calculated. He's no stranger to public feuds. From penning No Vaseline, one of the greatest diss tracks ever, to building empires like Friday and the Big Three League, Ice Cube has nothing left to prove. He simply reminded everyone of the weight he carries in the culture. But Aries? He still wasn't done. Even after being roasted by legends and dragged across social media, he doubled down, this time on Vlad TV, and still had more to say. He went on a podcast and straight up doubled down on his opinion about Ice Cube. Apparently, Willie D even called him up, sounding mad. Like Aries had disrespected his own mom or something. Willie was trying to tell him like, "Man, do you realize what Ice Cube has done for the culture and for hip-hop?" Aries said. Willie was like, "Aries, man, you don't understand what Ice Cube did for the culture, man, and for hip-hop. Why would you say that?" And I go, "Willie, it's a subjective opinion. Am I not allowed to not like Ice Cube? And listen, I love Willie D. That's my guy. But he called me like I insulted his mother. He was like, Aries, man, you really don't get what Ice Cube has done for the culture and hip-hop. Why would you say that?" And again I told him, "Willie, it's just a subjective opinion. I'm allowed not to like Ice Cube." Still, Aries wasn't budging. He stood by it and said, "It's just my personal opinion. I'm allowed not to like Ice Cube." Then he pushed it even further, saying Ice Cube doesn't move him at all. Not as a rapper, not as an actor. Even when the host brought up F***K the Police and how iconic it is for what it represents, Aries acknowledged the message but said, "I get how it can touch your emotions, but it don't do nothing for me. Done. Nothing. Ice Cube does nothing for me, as a rapper or an actor." At this point it wasn't even about Cube anymore because somewhere, probably watching all of this unfold from his phone in a penthouse suite, was 50 Cent, and Aries had words for him too. Just when everyone thought 50 Cent might stay out of the drama, he popped up with a subtle yet unmistakable shot. He didn't mention any names, but the message was loud and clear. He posted a video that screamed passive-aggressive energy, and fans instantly picked up on who it was aimed at and the CL. Bothered. The man's schedule is stacked between producing Power, running BMF, handling his liquor brand, touring, and closing TV deals. He's got no shortage of bigger things to do. So why did 50 Cent even take a second to clap back at Aries Spears? What made him pause whatever power move he was making to step into this drama? Well, the answer goes deeper than just internet noise or petty celebrity feuds. It has everything to do with history, loyalty, and how respect moves differently in hip-hop. See, people often forget that 50 Cent and Ice Cube go way back. Not necessarily in terms of collaborations, but in mutual respect and recognition. When 50 was still carving out his lane, trying to transition from rap to Hollywood, a move most people doubted he could pull off. Ice Cube was one of the few industry veterans who gave him props early. While others looked at 50 like another rapper chasing Hollywood dreams, Cube saw the ambition and hustle in him, probably because it reminded him of himself. Ice Cube didn't just open doors in film. He built the damn house, writing, producing, and starring in his own projects when Hollywood wouldn't hand him the keys. So when he saw 50 taking that same independent route, there was a kind of unspoken understanding: game recognizes game. And 50 Cent? He never forgot that. In countless interviews, podcasts, and media appearances, 50 has made it a point to consistently show love to Ice Cube. There's one moment in particular that stands out. A podcast where 50 spoke about Cube's impact on him, saying, "Ice Cube was on when I was just watching music. All movies. All of it." That might sound simple, but there's weight in those words. He wasn't just talking about music or acting. He was talking about influence. How Ice Cube was already dominating different industries while 50 was still just a fan watching it all unfold. He went on to say something else that really shows you the level of respect he has. Produced the vehicle he was in. It wasn't like he was just acting in someone else's film. That's Cube's blueprint. Build your own lane, drive your own car, and don't wait for Hollywood to offer you a ride. That's the exact mindset 50 adopted with Power, BMF, and all the other TV empires he's now helming. It's not just admiration, it's a playbook that 50 followed, and Cube wrote it first. Now let's pivot to Aries Spears. Here's the thing. Aries is the exact kind of person 50 Cent loves to clown. It's practically a sport for him. Loud, brash, and constantly throwing hot takes that stir controversy, but without the kind of current success to back it up. That's 50's favorite kind of target. He doesn't go after top-tier rivals unless there's a real reason. Instead, he surgically picks people who talk loud but aren't holding much ground. Think Ja Rule. Think Young Buck. Think Wendy Williams. Now, Aries Spears is just the latest addition to the list. When Aries started throwing shade at Ice Cube, that hit 50 on two levels. First, it looked like disrespect towards someone he holds in high regard, someone who paved the way for multi-hyphenates like him. And second, it was coming from a dude who hasn't made a real cultural splash in over a decade. So to 50, this wasn't just shade. It was delusion disguised as opinion. And if there's one thing 50 Cent is always ready to do, it's call out delusion with style. He didn't waste time. He jumped into the mix with a classic 50 move. A slick Instagram post. He captioned it, "Check my temperature. I'm ice cold. The hood left the left side of my chest froze. Need help with your bills? I'll write you a referral. You might even get a love contract." He didn't name drop Aries, but he didn't need to. The internet caught on immediately. The shade was clear, the message loud. This wasn't some vague sub. This was a professional-grade roast, served cold, just like the caption said. Fans instantly knew who it was aimed at, and the comment sections lit up like fireworks. To 50 Cent, this was more than a response, it was a message. A way of saying, if you come for legends like Cube, you better be ready for what comes next. And Aries clearly felt that pressure, because not long after, he launched into a defensive monologue, claiming he was being painted as the poster child for the world's biggest hater. He even said, "If you look up the word hate, it's my picture." But at that point, the damage was done. The internet had already decided who they were backing, and it wasn't Aries. 50 didn't just clap back because he felt like it. He did it because in hip-hop, respect is earned and loyalty matters. When you disrespect someone who's built an empire from nothing, and someone who once put you on the map by giving you public support, you're not just crossing a line. You're burning a bridge you never helped build. And that's what Aries Spears doesn't seem to understand. It's not just about whether you're allowed to have an opinion. It's about knowing when to say it, how to say it, and who you're saying it about. Because in this culture, throwing stones at giants doesn't make you brave. It makes you a target. And 50 Cent? He's not one to miss. 50 posted a picture on Instagram with the caption, "Check my temperature. I'm ice cold. The hood left the left side of my chest froze. Need help with your bills? I'll write you a referral. You might even get a love contract." After that post, Aries clearly felt the heat. He responded with an emotional monologue, feeling like he'd been turned into the face of hate. He said, "Apparently, I'm the poster child for the world's biggest hater. If you look up the word hate, it's my picture." Then he added, "When did we get to a point where, unless your opinion is favorable, you're a hater? Last time I checked, as human beings, we're all allowed to have opinions. At what point did it become that if your opinion doesn't go with the flow or agree with everyone else, you're labeled a hater? I don't understand that." And he didn't stop there. Aries was still stung by Ice Cube's remark. He added, "Somebody sent me a clip where Ice Cube responded. He was on a radio show when the host played him the snippet. And the first thing Ice Cube says is, 'Well, most suckers don't like me.' Then he goes on to say, 'I've never heard of this dude.' And finally he ends with, 'Well, he's just not funny.' Aries responded, 'Well, you can't have it both ways. If you don't know who I am, how do you know if I'm funny or not? So yeah, you can't have it both ways." That's where things really started to fall apart for Aries. Because in the same breath that he's calling Cube out for being dismissive, he also backpedals and gives him praise. But then, right after that, he flips again, insisting that Cube's body of work just doesn't impress him. In the end, Aries tried to stand his ground, but his own words kept contradicting themselves. He was trying to respect Cube as a legend while simultaneously tearing down everything he's built. That's a hard sell, and it's exactly why the internet wasn't buying it. This wasn't just a hot take. It was a full-on contradiction. And that's exactly why people started dragging Aries Spears, not because he had an opinion, but because he kept switching his stance and then acted like a victim when the heat came back around. And just like that, this wasn't about rap beef anymore. Things took a darker turn when people began bringing up Aries' past, specifically the 2022 lawsuit involving Tiffany Haddish. Both comedians were sued over a disturbing comedy sketch that many found highly inappropriate. The skit featured a child left in the care of a creepy A. Even though the case was eventually settled and the video was pulled from the internet, the damage to Aries' reputation was already done, and it stuck. So what did Aries do next? He went right back to Vlad TV. When asked if he and Tiffany Haddish were still on good terms after the whole situation, Aries said, "Yeah, we're good." But when pressed further, he hinted that she was part of it too, implying there wasn't much for her to hold against him. He said, "I mean, she participated in the whole thing, so it's not like she could, but I'm just saying, you know how people get, man. We were good, but you know how it is." He kept it vague. Then the host asked if there would ever be a time when Aries actually opened up about what went down. Aries just laughed it off, saying, "Yeah, but you're gonna have to pay me for that story." So clearly, he's keeping that tea locked up for now. At that point, people started noticing something else. Aries was popping up on Vlad TV more often than Vlad himself, complaining about being blackballed, ranting about how he should be as big as Kevin Hart. It became a pattern fans couldn't ignore. He wasn't making headlines for his comedy anymore. He was trending for drama, interviews, beefs, and rehashing old scandals. He wasn't getting booked. He wasn't building new material. He wasn't making any real noise. And over time, that frustration started showing. You could hear it in his tone, see it in his interviews. It wasn't just confidence, it was resentment bubbling just beneath the surface. Now let's talk about why this whole Ice Cube drama blew up in Aries' face. Because coming for Cube isn't like throwing shade at just any rapper. You're going after a full-blown cultural heavyweight. And that's a fight you're not likely to win. Let's run down Cube's resume real quick. No Vaseline. Still considered one of the most savage diss tracks in hip-hop history. Friday. Not just a comedy. It became a cornerstone of black cinema, creating iconic characters we still quote today. The Big Three. Not just a basketball league. It's a whole movement, drawing in retired NBA stars and big-name investors, all built on Cube's vision. And did we mention he was ghostwriting for legends like Eazy-E, Dr. Dre, and MC Ron while most teenagers were still figuring out algebra? Now flip the card to Aries Spears' claim to fame. A few solid MAD-TV skits, some good stand-up sets, and well, that's about it. Lately, his name's been trending more for controversial podcast soundbites than